Jade Hurley, good morning to you.
Good morning, Neil. Good morning, Grant. It's lovely to be talking to you again.
And you know what? This is I look at your website and I'm blown away by some of the accolades you've received over the journey, but none as big as this. By coming back a second time, you are now a friend of the blokes. Now, it doesn't get much bigger than that.
Oh, that's lovely.
And more importantly than even that, you're coming to our town, so we thought we'd better have a chat to you, talk a little bit about your career, because there'd be some who didn't hear the last conversation, and then we're going to give this a bit of a pump up in terms of getting people along to see you have a sing.
Oh, that's lovely, because we were at the Sphinx on Friday night, and the 13th of February, and 7 p.m. show with my crazy mate Rodney Vincent. So you get basically two country rockers for the price of one, if I can put it like that.
Well, I spoke to Rodney a couple of times when we were organising this conversation, and I think crazy guy sounds a bit accurate, actually. He seems to be up and about. Let's use that expression.
Oh, yeah. Look, it's a pleasure. We hooked up quite by accident together, because we did the Mildura Country Music Festival, and they're trying to rejig that as a huge festival that it always was down through the years, and but it died off a bit when Max Thorburn, the organiser of it, he passed away, unfortunately, and. Anyway, they rang me up and said, "Hey, would you like to come down and headline the festival?" And I said, "That'd be great." And would you like? And then they said, "Would you like Rodney Vincent to open for you?" And I said, "Oh, that'd be wonderful, because we both do basically the same sort of crossover country songs and rock and roll classics and all of that sort of thing." And it's worked out well. So we get out there on the road. Together all over, particularly Victoria and New South Wales.
I'll give you the tip. You wouldn't want to be in Mildura at the minute. I think they're up to day 8 where the temperature has got over 40. They've had a 49 in the last week.
No, it gets very hot there, doesn't it, Phil?
A little.
Well, can I take you back a little bit, Jade? What's the first sort of music that you remember listening to thinking, gee, that's pretty good?
Well, when I was a 14-year-old kid, I used to watch my mum play the piano, and that's how I ended up basically teaching myself how to play and how to read music and how to write music and all that sort of thing. And we had a radiogram in our lounge room in those days, and I used to just sit in front of the radiogram and just listen to all these new songs that were coming on, like Rock Around the Clock and Lucille from Little Richard and Jerry Lee Lewis and all these things. But out of the blue came a song called "Oh Boy" from Buddy Holly.
Yep.
I thought, wow. And then the following song that was played on that particular radio show was Debbie Reynolds, believe it or not, Debbie Reynolds singing "Tammy," and I thought, wow. But I had the uncanny knack of being able to hear a song for the first time, and then just walking over to the piano and being able to play it. And so I did that this particular day. I heard this Tammy after Buddy Holly singing "Oh Boy," and I walked over to the piano and I just played Tammy, and my mum and a few other people were there, and they said, how do you do that? And I said, I don't know. It's just something that I was born to be able to do, and basically I've been doing it ever since. But those two songs, "Oh Boy" from Buddy Holly and the Crickets, and "Tammy" from the wonderful Debbie Reynolds.
It's interesting, it's obviously very, very hypothetical, Jade, that Buddy Holly, had he lived beyond the age of 21 or 22 or whatever it was when he sadly passed away, the impact that he has had on such a broad range of artists. Clearly, you're mentioning it there. I know that, a lot of people don't realise this. The reason the Beatles called themselves the Beatles was because Buddy Hollies were called the Crickets. And so, the level of impact they've had on so many artists, he's had on so many artists.
Yeah, and not only that, fellas, the thing about people like Buddy Holly, we're talking about people who passed away, unfortunately, way before their time, and you know, so that brings into people like Elvis Presley, certainly Johnny O'Keefe here, who was my mentor and my mate, and he was my manager for a long, long time, these special people had such an incredibly special talent that God gave them, and you know, why were they taken in the manner that they were taken when they were basically at their prime? And I don't know. It's you ask the question, what if? In other words, what if they were still alive today? What would they be like? And that question perhaps would be full of I don't know, vibrancy. Who knows? Sadness. Who knows? And further tragedy. Who knows? But they were all just great talents in their own right, weren't they?
Can I ask you a bit about Johnny O'Keefe, Jade, if I might? I mentioned to you off air about me listening to music, etc., with my father, and he talked about seeing Johnny O'Keefe at Festival Hall. Can you take us back to what it was like back in those late 50s, early 60s here in Australia?
Well, God, they were very hard days, fellas. Number one, if you look at the entertainment scene today, you have PA systems which will blast the MCG out of existence.
Yep.
Lighting systems, you have production rigs and all of that sort of thing that mainly the overseas acts bring in, costing millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. In those days, I will never forget doing my first, particularly my first show at the Granville School of Arts Hall in Sydney. Just Granville is the suburb just before Parramatta, and my band was called Jade, Hurley and the Rockin' Rebels, and the PA, we had no lights. All we had was two light bulbs above the stage, on the stage, above the in the ceiling, and the PA system was an AWA 25 watt, 25 watt AWA amplifier with a 12-inch speaker either side of the stage on the floor, and that was it. And I mean, you couldn't hear yourself talk with the kids screaming and all of that sort of thing, and as they did in those days, just wonderful memories. But with Johnny O'Keefe, there was no one who could walk out on stage and not do what Johnny O'Keefe could do. Johnny O'Keefe said to me, I'll never forget when he approached me to manage me and everything like that, and teach me how to walk on stage, how to talk on stage, and how to be a nice person. Because Johnny O'Keefe was a wonderful person, and with wonderful morals and all of that sort of thing, and to be taught the life lessons that Johnny O'Keefe taught me, not only about showbiz, but not only about choosing songs and how to talk to an audience and how to walk on stage and all that sort of thing. There was no one better than him. And I'll never forget, he said to me one day, he said, because I said to him, I said, John, what attracted you to me as a young kid that I am so that you can give me all this experience? And he said, well, son, he said, number one, he said, you're a lot like me, you know. And I said, well, oh, how was that? And he said, well, number one, you're not really good looking.
That's why Grant and I are on radio. Got nothing to do with our talent. We're just both really ugly.
Then he said, well, you haven't. Another thing like me, you haven't really got a great voice. I said, oh, gee, that's 2 out of 2, and then he said, but he said, you know, when I saw you the first time I saw you performing on stage, and I was only 14 years of age, and I was as drunk as a skunk at the Aloha Hotel in Sydney in a talent quest singing, "Come on over, baby." The Jerry Lee Lewis classic at the time. He said, I saw myself at exactly the same time, and he said, that's why I'm managing you now, son. So just sit up and listen, and you'll learn the business.
Because I think the other thing is too, I don't sort of want to draw out to my obvious youth here, Jade, but, Johnny O'Keefe was sort of someone was really in the background when I was a kid rather than anything else, because my parents weren't heavily into his kind of music. But I also have now seen clips of his ability as a TV performer, not just, being able to sing, but as a host of a program. He was pretty good at that caper too.
Well, he was, as I say, fellas, he was an extraordinary talent. He'd walk he's one of those people who walks in the room and commands the room. And I speak of him in the present tense because to me, he's still with me in 24 hours a day. And because such was the profound existence that he had on my career. And even to this day, I pay homage to him, not only as a performer, but as I said, as a person. He was a lovely person. But once again, he had this unbelievable knack of being able to perform, whether it was on a stage at the Sydney Stadium or Melbourne Festival Hall or wherever. But then put him on television on 6 o'clock rock, and another side of him came over, or Sing later on Channel 7, and those two programs, along with Brian Henderson's Bandstand on the 9 Network. Well, I mean, they gave people like myself and so many others of that era an unbelievable start. That if those programs weren't around, God only knows what sort of music scene we'd have today. But I think a lot of the music scene today has a lot to say thank you for all those times, the hard times that we did, not only with no PA systems and no lighting and everything like as I alluded to before, but they were terribly hard days, and there was no money in the business, and to go back and think about how we existed and how we got through those early days, and with our first recording, in my case, with a song called How I Lied, and all of that sort of thing. They were terribly, terribly hard days. But and ironically enough, here we are. There were all these years down the track, and we're still here. So, thank God for something.
So you've been busy touring, and you are still busy touring, but I'm fascinated by the series of shows that you've done over the last 12 months with a few people that, could say they could sing a bit. Little Paddy, Digger Revell, Dinah Lee, Lucky Star and yourself. That might have been a bit of fun.
It was a wonderful show, the good old days of rock and roll, and we toured that for 3 years, fellas, and it was a wonderful show, but it was a terribly hard show to put on the road because Dinah lives in Wellington, New Zealand, so we'd have to bring her over from New Zealand. So you can imagine the cost associated with having 5 acts, a 4-piece band, and I wrote the show and produced the show and directed the show and everything like that. But it was just a monumentally expensive show to put on. So after 3 years, we thought, oh gee, we've kind of had enough of doing all that. But it was just a wonderful show. But basically, the five. How do I say it? The 5 people who could still perform on stage out of all of those performers from the 50s and the 60s in the Australian early entertainment, rock and roll and country music era, and it was a wonderful show to be part of.
I'm just a little bit disappointed when you said you ended it because it was getting really costly. I thought you might have said because we'd been everywhere, man. Well,
as I say, because that show was pure magic to put on, because Lucky Star would go out there and sing his song, because he was a one-hit wonder. But not only that, he's also a great talent telling his dad jokes.
Yeah. And you'll be able to catch up with next time you're talking to him. Tell him that you're also a friend of the Blokes, because he's a friend of the Blokes.
Of course, yeah.
Now, what is it about touring that you enjoyed so much, Jade? I mean, looking at you're constantly out there. What is it that keeps you going?
Well, the thing about it is, fellas, if you stop, you die. That's the philosophy that I live by, and to get out there on this particular tour that we're doing, we're going down to Bairnsdale and then the Morwell Club, and then the Sphinx Hotel, and then up to Bendigo, and over in places like that. I'm doing shows with Rodney Vincent that I haven't been to those particular venues for such a long time, and as I say, when we hooked up together, and I said, oh, well, what sort of what sort of places do you think we should aim for? And he started rattling off the Sphinx in Geelong and Bairnsdale, and as I say, and Morwell, Albury, and all those sorts of places. And I said, wow, it sounds like the good old days. So let's get out on the road and do it. Simple as that.
Well, of course, the Sphinx is very famous in Australian music history because it used to be called the Golf View. And there was a band called Mississippi stood up there one day and said, we're renaming ourselves. We're going to call ourselves Little River Band.
That's right, exactly.
Because they drove past the Little River sign, as I did this morning, coming down to Geelong. So you've also, just before we talk about where the dates are, you have just released the single that we played at the start of this conversation called My Country, a tribute to the cleaners on Qantas Aircraft, I believe, a land of sweeping planes.
Well, Dorothea McKellar, look, a mate of mine in Hong Kong rang me up, and we were just casually talking about the business, because he's a genius producer and everything like that over in Hong Kong right now, and he said, look, I've just emailed you a set of words. Have a look. So I opened the email, and straight away I thought I knew the words, particularly when I looked at the second verse, which ironically enough is the chorus of My Country, and I said, oh, I know that. That's from Dorothea McKellar. And he said, do you know the full story? And I said, no, I don't. But he went on to tell me, and after that I googled Dorothea and McKellar, and I was astonished to find out that even though a couple of versions had been recorded of this song, of Dorothea McKellar's poem, My Country, which was written by 19-year-old Dorothea McKellar in London, ironically enough, 114 years ago. I mean, when you think of that, 114 years ago, these words, 114 years, these words from Dorothea McKellar have been sitting around without music put to them. And when I say music put to them, as I say, yes, there are a couple of versions, but they're not the full poem. And Jackie Trent and Tony Hatch. Jackie Trent did a version, and also, pardon me, Barry Crocker did a version, the same version, but those two versions only contained two choruses of the poem, two paragraphs of the poem, and he said, what you should do is put your head down and backside up and do a brand new version and bring it up to date, bring it up to the 2026, and give it the Jade Hurley treatment with piano in the background and all of that sort of thing. And ironically enough, fellas, when I started looking at the words after we hung up, I basically wrote the song in about 15 minutes. Wrote the music in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And straight away, because I'm lucky enough to have my own recording studio, I put the bed down on the piano, and just started building it up building it up around that, and what you hear is for the first time, as I say, the full poem from full set of words. There are two versions that I recorded because of the fact that the full song, the full poem, the song goes. My version of that goes for almost 5.5 minutes, and a lot of radio stations won't play a song for 5.5 minutes.
Yep.
We decided to. Then I decided to condense it down and to a radio-friendly time, if I could put it that way, and it comes out around about 3.5 minutes. So, but there again, for the first time, the whole feel of the song is there. It's hopefully I've done justice to it, and we'll see what happens to it down the track.
Well, we think it's grouse, I think is the official designation from our place. People will be able to hear you play that at various places around town. Wednesday the 4th in Bairnsdale at 1 p.m. Saturday the 7th of February, that's next Saturday night at the Morwell Club, 8 p.m. show. The Sphinx the following Friday night, the 13th of February, that's a 7 o'clock show. And then Sunday afternoon at the All Seasons Resort in Bendigo on the 15th, that's a 2 p.m. show. Get along and tell Jade you heard about the program on the Two Blokes Chatting radio show. We'll feel good about that, even if he doesn't.
He might even see one of the two blokes, or the third bloke at least there.
Yeah, well, Grant's going to try and get along to the Sphinx. I can't be there, sadly, but he'll be there. He'll be the handsome one sitting in the front row going, "Go, Jade." We're going to go out with one of your other songs, a song that kind of is a bit of a life story for you. It's called "Rockin' All Over the World," even if it's only rockin' all over Victoria. That'll do, won't it? There
you go. By the way, I admitted to say that if folk wish to get the both versions, the long version, the full poem of my country, and the radio version, all you got to do is go to my website, jadehurley.net, and for the pricely sum of $3.50,
outrageous,
both versions, and we'll send you both versions.
And sadly, because it's digital, it's very hard to be a signed copy.
I'll come along for a photo on the night, Jade, okay?
Good on you. To be lovely to catch up, fellas.
And that's a threat, not a promise. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, Jade, and congratulations on being a friend of the blokes. Here he is, Jade Hurley, rockin' all over the world.